Hey you, what's up? Ready to get deeper in the objection killing part? Very cool, I'm really psyched about this. Let's see the second weapon to kill objections. So, here's the first device, urgency. Your goal is making the reader of your sales text buy your product now. You have to come up with a reason why your customer has to buy your product as soon as possible, because every salesman knows that give me time to think about it means missed sale. If they don't buy now, they never will. John Carlton has a funny but yet very true way of seeing it. Picture your customer explaining to his wife why he bought your product. Done? Now, help him by whispering to his ear as many reasons as possible to justify his purchase. The more reason you give him, the more chances you have to secure the deal. So, do you want to know how to create urgency? Of course you want. The best way is using scarcity. People have an irrational fear of missing out on things. Let's look at some examples. Do you know Canada Goose? It's a coat brand for Arctic environment, quite expensive and very trendy. They've made a limited edition of 300 coats with Levi's, and their main sales argument is scarcity. I mean, just look at the tag on the picture, 1 of 300. These coats cost a little fortune on eBay and are highly desired by collectors. Okay, so much of that. But I believe that the best place to see the effect of scarcity is the automobile world. Here you have it, the Porsche 918 Spyder. Only 918 of its kind were made, and it's priced at $845,000 officially, but since nobody wants to give his or hers away, the real value of the car is much more higher than that. Let me show it to you. So this is one car that costs nearly $1 million. Next up, the Aston Martin 177. There are only 77 copies in the world. Automobile constructors think that they are so smart by making the amount of cars produced fit the model of the car. Anyway, this one is priced at $1.4 million, but really, people would pay more than $10 million to get one. I mean, there's only 77 of them. Let me show you a picture. Last but not least, the Zonda Tricolore, which was produced only 3 times. Tricolore, 3 copies, get it? Officially, it's priced at $2.7 million. But who are we kidding? Car nuts would spend so much more on this car. So I think that we have talked enough about cars and that you are beginning to get what I mean. So, scarcity is the best way to sell a lot of products at high price because people are afraid of missing out. It happens very often that people buy stuff they don't want just because they are afraid that they will never get another chance of buying it. Scarcity, thus, makes people buy instantly and additionally at higher prices. I mean, you've seen the relation between the price of the car and the number of units produced. This desire for scarcity is embedded in human nature. Behavioral psychologists did tests on this. All people tend to overvalue things that are scarce just because they are scarce. Tests were made where people were given jars of cookies. One group of people got a jar of cookies with only 2 cookies in it. Another group got a jar full of cookies. Guess what happened? People who got the jar with 2 cookies in it estimated the cookies 3 times more valuable and desirable than the people who got the jar full of cookies. Of course, you can use this when you sell. It will kill the objections people have and replace them with the fear of missing out on something. Just say that your stock is limited for XY reason and that they better grab a product now before it gets out of stock, and you're good to go. Another example, tell a hesitant customer who is thinking about buying the product he has in hands that this one he holds is the last one you got. As you guess, he will be much more likely to buy it. You can use this everywhere. If you sell a course, tell your target audience that there's just a very limited number of spots. Of course, always give a reason for the scarcity to make it believable. Bottom line, People buy quickly when the product is scarce because they want to get in and feel special. Having a limited edition is always rewarding, you can brag about it, and so on. Plus, they are afraid of missing out on something important. Really, it's a shortcut in our brains that says, the more a product is hard to get, the more it's valuable, and the more I want to get it. And also, the more I'm ready to spend on it. Yes, a good example for this is the Porsche calendar. There are just very few of them, and it's very, very desired. So, I think that you understand why this is an incredible sales technique. But now, let's see how I applied this with something other than cars. You have two different ways to apply scarcity: limited in time or limited in stock. When helping the Parisian startup selling shoes, I used the limited in time approach. Of course, you always need to explain why you do this, otherwise it's not believable. I explained in my sales text to the potential customer that we were offering a deal on our shoes because our manufacturer agreed to reduce his rates if we brought in enough business. Then I told them that they had only 24 hours to get in on this deal because we had to contact the manufacturer the next day at noon if we wanted to ship on time. Of course, many people don't explain why and it still works, but explaining the ins and outs of your deal makes your customer think, oh yeah, that seems legit. This is really an opportunity this company is offering me. Now let's get to the limited in stock approach. This one is easy. Your stock is limited. For X reasons, you just have Y units of your product left. Better grab it now before it goes out of stock. That's how sales work. So this is what I explained when I showed you the cars. Scarcity creates urgency and also a higher desire for your product, which means that you can easily ask for a higher price. Also, you must know that high pricing equals higher perceived value. The more you charge, the more people will think that your product is valuable, even if it's not the case. It's kind of another shortcut our brain takes. Frankly, it's not difficult to explain why your product is limited in stock. Maybe it's a test run, maybe one of the materials you need to manufacture it is very hard to get, maybe your warehouse has burnt down, maybe you have a very small factory which needs over 1 year to produce 10 units of your product. Just brainstorm and you'll find some desirable reason. Of course, you can also associate the stock scarcity and the time scarcity to make a monster objection killer. I sense how amazed you are by all of this, but it goes even further. There's much more to it. Now let's see another objection killing device. The make your customer feel special harpoon. Okay, it's not actually called an harpoon, but please let us call it that, it sounds so cool. So, what is it? Cialdini actually showed it with his waitress experiment. In this experiment, he shows that the tip the waitress receives increases proportionally to the degree of attention the waitress accorded to the client. That means smiling, giving him mints, slightly touching him, etc. Doing all those things makes the tip increase. The takeaway here is, when writing copy, explain the deal to your customer by making him feel special. Don't worry, I'll show you how to do this on the next slide. First, let's get to the next objection killer, the because bomb. I'm always telling you to justify why you are telling your customer what you're telling him. It's because people tend to agree dramatically more with you as soon as you give them reasons. The reasons really don't matter. The only thing that matters is that they exist. For instance, when standing in line, you got way more chances to convince the guy in front of you to give you his place if you ask him by giving him a reason, no matter the reason. It could be something like, because I'm running late. It doesn't matter. The guy in front of you just needs something to justify his action to himself. So always give your customer reasons so he can rationalize his buying decision. These two weapons associated with scarcity will destroy every possible objection you may encounter. And let's not forget what I told you about guarantees. Man, I really love the OK part of Idoka. So here's one example of this approach. I'll sell these CDs for 40% of their initial price because the labels aren't in the right place. The factory has messed up the batch. I know that you wouldn't care about such details, but I can go on and sell them to anybody else like this. So, you've got everything here. The Because Bomb, the Your Special Harpoon, and a scarcity of stock, and even an implicit scarcity of time. So I advise the shoe startup to do the same by telling their small email list that they are giving them 10% off one pair of shoe to thank them for their loyalty. Result? 5 pairs of shoes at $450 each sold in 1 hour. And please let me point out that the email was really bad written because I let the co-founder of the startup write it, who has no copywriting knowledge whatsoever. I'm not bragging, but I think that I could have sold like 10 pairs at least. Do you want to recap all of this? I know, there was a lot of info. Yes? Okay, then let's go on. Kill the objections by manufacturing scarcity around your product, giving a deal, explaining why you are giving a deal, and making this deal exclusive so the customer feels special. If it helps, imagine how the customer explains the decision to his wife or her husband, and imagine yourself whispering the arguments to his ear so he can justify himself. And finally, explicitly point out the fact that there is no risk whatsoever if he gives your product a shot. So, if the OK part is done right, your target customers should be really tempted to buy your product because you've made a case he cannot refuse if he wants to stay true to his interests and to his belief system. If the OK part is perfect, you should be able to convert your target customers like hell. I think that I don't need to tell you that all of this must be used ethically because it's really powerful stuff. I mean, using this right could make you rich very easily. This knowledge is really powerful. If you have a product to sell and you apply this, even slightly, you make the price of my course back in 1 or 2 weeks top. And I'm not even talking about implementing all the other stuff we've just seen and all the amazing stuff that comes next. You'll see the price of this course is really ridiculous compared to all the info you get and all the strategies I show you. That's it for this section. Man, I really enjoy this stuff. So, now I've introduced you to the power of urgency, the 2 different ways to create it, to the Your Special Harpoon, to the Because Bomb. Not bad so far, not bad at all. Now, let's get to the last part of OK, the testimonial.